Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today is the 2nd of September. We're on page 8, and the article is about a golden opportunity to learn more about gold. A golden opportunity is a really good opportunity. And apparently it's very important that we learn about gold, so let's go.
Yeah, golden opportunity. 这个 golden 在这里是 excellent 的意思啊，或者是 very favorable 的意思啊，这非常棒的。那所以 golden opportunity 就是一个非常棒的机会。所以标题呢，我们的中文标题是炼金真的有术，打个问号。那英文标题的意思就是我们现在有一个非常好的机会来更加了解 gold。Learn more about something 就是更加的了解某样东西。
So, our article start is like this. There are dozens of metals among the 98 natural elements. Some are plentiful and highly useful, like copper, iron, and aluminum. Others are rare and dangerous to use, like mercury, lead, and arsenic. Some metals are so inexpensive that they are sold by the ton. Others are extremely expensive and sold by the ounce, like silver, platinum, and gold. Among them, gold has long been the standard for wealth. All the natural elements are formed by atoms, which are composed of at least two particles, a proton and an electron. A third kind of particle, neutrons, can also add a bit of variety to atomic structures. The first two are essential for a stable atom. Electrons, particles of negatively charged energy, revolve around the core. The number of protons of each atom determines how it will be expressed in the physical world. For millennia, alchemists have tried to create gold, which has 79 protons, through chemical means. They all failed. Surprisingly, however, you can create gold by adding one proton to a platinum atom, which has 78 protons, or by eliminating one proton from mercury, which has 80 protons. Nevertheless, you wouldn't want to try either method. The only way to add or subtract protons from an atom is by means of a nuclear reaction. This requires massive amounts of energy. In nature, metals heavier than iron, including gold, were created by the destructive explosion of whole stars. Such power on Earth can be realized only inside a nuclear reactor and on a microscopic scale. Worse still, the tiny amounts of gold produced would be radioactive and poisonous to the touch. So, until another discovery is made, you'll just have to enjoy the gold that already exists in the world. Okay, so this is not the direction of the article I thought it was going to go in. I never knew that you could create gold with a nuclear reaction. That's a really interesting thing, and also something not immediately important to my current life, but something interesting to know.
Yeah.
Our article starts off by saying, there are dozens of metals among the 98 natural elements. What's a natural element? An element is a substance on our planet that cannot be reduced anymore. It is a basic building block of our planet and actually our universe. So far, we only know about 98 of them. There may be only 98, or there may be more on some other planet or star that we haven't run into, but as far as our Earth is concerned, 98 is enough.
好，那我们这里看到他说 there are dozens of， 这个 dozen 当然是一打啊，但是当我们讲做 dozens of 的时候呢，它其实指的是一个 indefinite large number 啊，就是不确定的一个还算蛮大的数字，那相当于中文的数十个啊，也就是说有很多的意思啦。好，所以有数十种的这个金属呢，在这个98个自然元素当中啊，那这个化学周期表上面呢，其实总共有118个元素啊，但是里面大概只有98个是自然的元素啊。那所谓的 elements 在英文里面的概念是，它就是最基本的东西，你没有办法再把它这个细分下去了啊，所以这个叫做一个 elements。
Now, just because there's 98 of them doesn't mean that there's an equal amount of each one. Just because they're basic building blocks doesn't mean that we have an equal quantity of them. Some of them are plentiful, meaning there are a ton of them. There is so much of them. And they're highly useful, or I guess because there's so much of them, we found ways to use them. Like copper. We've been using copper for thousands of years. Iron is a more recent discovery, and aluminum, a metal that we've really only worked with in the past, 150 years maximum.
好，所以这个句子讲到说 some 就是有一些金属就是这些自然元素中的金属，有一些是 plentiful 就是很丰富或者很多的意思abundant abundant abundant 或者是 ample ample 好，像其实在看到单字的时候，你可以想想它的英文的同义字或者怎么样英文解释，会让你对这个字有更深的理解。所以有一些这种元素呢还蛮多的，那而且是 highly useful 是非常有用，所以各位可以学起来，非常有用不是只能讲 very useful 你还可以讲 highly useful 就非常有用。那例如什么东西很有用呢？例如说 copper 这铜那 iron 就是铁，然后呢 aluminum 就是铝。
Now, other metals are rare. They're not easily found and dangerous to use. They're not good for people, like mercury, which is a poison, lead, which is a poison, and arsenic, which is a poison. However, these three things, even though they're poisonous to people, we've still found a lot of uses for them, strangely enough.
好，那这一句的开头是 others， 那其实相对于上一句的开头是 some 因为这都是不特定的一些，所以你现在有一个大的一个群体，然后你要谈在这个大群体当中有一些是怎样，还有一些是怎么样，这时候英文就可以说 some 怎么样怎么样others are 怎么样怎么样。好，所以呢相对于上一句的有一些很多而且很有用，那有一些其他的是怎么样呢？ Others are rare， 就是 uncommon 就有另外一些其他的呢很稀有，而且是 dangerous to use， 而且使用的时候会有危险。例如什么呢？水银、铅还有砷这三样东西都是有毒的，但是它们还是蛮有用的。
And just like Wesley 老师 has explained that we've used some and others, our next sentence also begins with some, and the fifth sentence begins with others. And what's going on here is we've done two contrasting pairs, because English, we like to either do a series of things that are the same or things that are opposites. So we've done some are plentiful, others are rare. So some there's a lot, others there's not so many. The next sentence is some are inexpensive, and the last sentence is some are extremely expensive. So we're comparing how much there are, and then we're comparing how expensive they are. So on the third sentence, it says, some metals are so inexpensive, they're so cheap, that they are sold by the ton. It's so easy to find them, and they're just so easy to trade that they won't sell them for anything less than a ton. A ton is 2,000 pounds. But also you have to consider that a ton of steel is going to be a far smaller amount than like a ton of feathers, because metal is heavy. So it's not a great deal of an amount of metal, but it will certainly be a ton of metal.
好，那这一句呢是另外一组对比那因为我们刚刚看前面两个对比的是这个是否稀有，然后有没有用或者有没有毒，所以一个 some 一个 others。那从现在开始又来一个对比的，在这里比的是不是很贵那所以一样是 some 开始，然后再配一个 others。那所以 some metals 有一些金属呢是非常的 inexpensive 就是 not high in price 就它价钱不高那这个字呢跟那个 cheap 是有一点不一样的。 cheap 也是便宜，但 cheap 有的时候会暗示这个品质不太好，但是 inexpensive 就只是告诉你它价钱不高，并没有说它品质不好。好，所以有一些金属的价格不高那所以怎么样的情况呢？它们价格非常的不高so inexpensive that他们是 sold by the ton by the ton 就是一吨一吨的卖，那这个 ton 在这里呢它是等于200磅那大概900多公斤。
So the last sentence, others are extremely expensive and they're sold by the ounce. And an ounce is 28 grams. So this is the extreme opposite of selling it by the ton, obviously. That's a very small amount. And these are things like silver or platinum and gold. And these ones that are sold by the ounce are also coincidentally used as money or used to represent other kinds of wealth.
好，所以相对于那个非常不便宜，非常不贵，一吨一吨卖的那种金属呢 ，others 有一些其他的金属是 extremely expensive， 非常的昂贵，而且是 sold by the ounce。ounce 就是那个盎司哈，差不多是28克，所以一点一点的卖。那像这类的贵重金属呢，例如什么呢？例如说银啊，还有铂。好，铂呢，它也可以是个元素，但有的时候这个铂它指我们所谓的白金，那是一种合金啊，但这里指的不是合金，这里指的是铂这种金属。那还有一个当然就是 gold 金子黄金。
Now, and among these three metals that are used often for money are the gold has been the standard for wealth, has long been the standard for wealth. Back when paper money was becoming a thing, you had to find a way that people would trust that the money meant something, that there was some value to these pieces of paper. So for a period of time, when they were trying to get the currency system going, the modern currency system, they decided to back it with gold. They said every single piece of paper is worth a certain amount of gold, and this gold is standing here in the bank, so you can trust this money. And it wasn't as simple as that, but that was what they had people believe. And so for a long time, currency was backed by gold. That was the English term for it. You back the currency with gold.
好，那 among them 就是在这些贵重金属当中呢 ，gold 黄金 has long been 它一直长时间以来一直被怎么样被视为，或它一直就是 the standard for wealth， 就是财富的标准。那黄金本身当然就是很昂贵，以前也还可以拿来直接交易的。现在呢，大家都用纸币。可是刚刚这个 Angela 老师就解释说，其实这个一开始要有发行纸币的时候呢，其实国家它必须要有这个相对量的这个黄金的在它的国库里面，这样才能让大家相信它这个纸币的价钱。
Actually, the history of money and items for exchange, like how people have traded over the centuries, is really interesting, especially the history of how currency became established. But that is not our topic today. We're just mentioning it, and then we're going on to another fascinating area, which is how these metals are formed. So, all the natural elements are formed by atoms. And these atoms are composed of at least two particles. The which here tells us we're going to tell you something about atoms. So atoms, which are composed of at least two particles, a proton and an electron. There are definitely always a proton and an electron in your atom. The question is how many? Because depending on how many they are, tells you what kind of element you're dealing with.
好，所以这个地方讲到说，所有的自然元素呢 are formed by atoms， 都是由原子所构成的。atoms 就是原子 ，which 就是指原子呢 are composed of， to be composed of 就是由什么什么组成，也就是 consist of 注意 consist of 通常是主动的。那另外一个被动的用法意思差不多的是 be made up of 都是由什么什么组成的意思。所以这个原子呢是由什么组成呢？至少有两个东西，有两种粒子组成的。Particles 就是粒子。那哪两种粒子呢？一个 proton 就是质子，然后呢 electron 就是电子质子跟电子。
So there's a third kind of particle called a neutron. Let me go back and explain. A proton has a positive charge, an electron has a negative charge, and a neutron has a neutral charge. It is neither positive nor negative. And these neutrons can also add a bit of variety to atomic structures, again, based on how many there are. So how many protons, how many electrons, and how many neutrons you have tells you what kind of element you are.
好，那有第三种粒子呢，叫做 neutrons， 就是中子那它也可以 add a bit of variety too， 就是增加一点点的变化。 加到哪里面去呢？加到这个原子的结构 atomic structures 上面去啊。那这个所以除了质子、电子之外，还有中子。好，那刚刚 Angel 老师有讲啊，这个质子通常带正电，电子通常带负电。好，那这个 neutrons 它不带正也不带负。
So the first two are essential for a stable atom. You must have a proton and electron to balance each other out, I guess.
好，所以呢，这地方讲到 the first two 就是指质子跟电子啊。他刚刚先讲的那两个 are essential 就是一定要的、非常必要的 absolutely necessary。对什么来讲是很必要的呢？对于一个 stable atom， 对于一个稳定的原子啊，也就是对于原子的稳定性来讲，质子跟电子是非常重要的。
Actually, it turns out that only hydrogen is the only kind of atom that does not have a neutron. Everybody else has neutrons, but hydrogen is special and only has one proton and one electron.
哦，所以这个只有氢呢，它是没有中子的，那其他的都是有中子、有质子、有电子。
So electrons, particles of negatively charged energy, these guys revolve around the core. So they're more unstable. They like to fly around. They're kind of like satellites to the core. Revolve is to turn.
Yeah. Revolve 就是围着一个轴心旋转，那叫 revolve 啊。好，所以呢，这地方讲到说电子啊，它是同一个告诉你，它是 particles of， 它是一些 negatively charged energy， 一些带着负电的粒子。那电子呢 revolve around， 它会围绕着什么东西来转呢？ The core 就是核心。好，那这个地方讲的应该是原子核啊。那原子核这比较正或者是准确的说法是 atomic nucleus 啊，就 atomic 就是原子的形容词，那个核是用 nucleus， 这叫原子核。
Now, the number of protons of each atom determines how it will be expressed in the physical world. So the protons and the neutrons like to hang out in the core, and how many protons there are is really going to change the nature of the substance that you have.
好 the number of protons 就是质子的数量啊，每一个原子的里面的质子的数量 determines 决定这个物质呢会怎么样的被 expressed， 被怎么样的表示。那这个地方其实就是指它会有什么样的化学元素符号来表示的意思。In the physical world 啊，这个在这个物理世界里面它会怎么样的表示啊？那这个表示就是我们刚刚讲，你看我们会怎么样称它，也就是说它具有什么样特别的一个性质，它会怎么样的表现它自己。好，所以这 express 这个字呢，在这里中文是不太好翻的，不过基本上它的意思其实就是 to represent by a sign 或者一个 symbol， 就是一个 express， 你如何表达它。
So for millennia, for thousands of years, alchemists have tried to create gold. What are alchemists? Alchemy, A-L-C-H-E-M-Y, was kind of a magic chemistry that people played around with for a long, long time because they realized that if you mix certain substances together, it created effects. They found out that you could make gunpowder, they could make explosions, they could make cool colors. So they thought there was kind of a magic about it, and they were trying to figure out the secrets of this magic. And it's the precursor to chemistry, actually. After a while, people started to figure out there was a science to all of this. And now, using our science, our advanced science, we know that gold has 79 protons. And they were trying to figure out how to change gold or create gold through chemical means. By using chemicals, they wanted to create gold. And it's funny because they were actually onto something. They really thought that you could use mercury somehow to create gold. And later on in the article, it tells us that they're actually just one proton away from gold. So they were kind of not wrong, but they were just trying to do it the wrong way. And they all failed because they were doing it the wrong way.
好，所以呢，这个地方讲到说，数千年来，好 ，for millennia。这些 alchemists 就是炼金的术士啊。那有很多人讲化学本来跟这个西方的炼金术很有关系啊，因为他们一直想把金子炼出来，他们就必须要去弄清楚这些东西他们的化学性质啊。所以这些炼金术士呢 have tried to， 他们一直试着要 create 打造或者做出来 gold 黄金。那黄金呢，它有79个 质子。好，那他们怎么样做出来呢？他们是要透过 chemical means 就是方法，他们透过化学方法看他们能不能做出黄金来。但是呢 they all failed， 但他们通通都失败了。
Surprisingly, however, you can create gold by adding 1 proton to a platinum atom, which has 78 protons, or by eliminating or getting rid of 1 proton from mercury, which has 80 protons. Nevertheless, you wouldn't want to try either method because it's not as easy as it seems.
好 surprisingly 就是可能会让你觉得蛮惊讶的，就是你可以 create gold， 你是可以制造出黄金的。怎么做呢？ By adding， 你只要加上一个质子，加到哪里去呢？加到铂的这个原子里面去。因为铂的原子呢，它有78个质子，所以你如果能加一个质子进去，就是79了，那就跟金子是一样。或者是你可以 eliminating， 你可以 remove， 你可以拿掉，你可以消除一个质子。从哪里消除呢？从 mercury， 从这个汞拿掉一个质子。因为汞它有80个质子，所以拿掉一个它就变79了，那就跟金子一样。但是 nevertheless 就是然而 you wouldn't want to try either method， 但是你不会想要去试任何刚刚讲的以上讲的这2种方法里面任何一个你都不会想去做的。You wouldn't want to 就是你不会想去做的，因为通常不会有人去做那样的事情。
Well, the reason why that no one does it like this is because the only way to add or subtract protons from an atom, the only way to get atoms or protons in or out of an atom is through using a nuclear reaction, which is kind of really deadly. So those alchemists were never going to be able to do that.
Yeah, 好，所以这地方讲到说the only way 唯一的一个方法，做什么事情唯一方法呢？ To add 你要增加，或者是 subtract 就是减的意思这个 sub 就是 away， 那个 tract 就是 draw 拉的意思，所以是拉掉的意思，也就是减的意思。deduct D-E-D-U-C-T。 好，所以你唯一能够增减质子从一个原子呢，你要增减质子唯一的方法就是 by means of， 唯一的方法就是 by means of， 你要透过一个核反应 a nuclear reaction 就是核反应。
And this requires massive amounts of energy, a super, super huge amount of energy.
Massive 是很大很大的，好，所以这需要很大量的 massive amounts of 大量的什么东西呢？ Energy 能量。
In nature, metals that are heavier than iron, including gold, were created by the destructive explosion of whole stars. Entire stars exploded to create gold.
在自然界中 in nature 那这些金属that are 省略掉 that are 比铁还要重的金属都怎么样呢？那什么叫做比铁还要重的金属？包括金子。这些金属呢 were created by 它们怎么样形成的呢？是由 destructive 就是有毁灭性的 explosion 爆炸 of whole stars， 就是整颗星球整颗的星球，而且不止一个 stars， 整颗的星球有了那种毁灭性的爆炸，才产生足够的能量，然后才形成了这些比铁还要重的这些金属，包括黄金。
So such power on Earth, this kind of power here on Earth can be realized, can be made happen only inside a nuclear reactor and on a microscopic scale. It is a much tinier scale than a star. We can only do a very tiny amount at once, potentially, theoretically.
Yeah. 所以这样的一种力量 such power 这种能量这样的一种能量在地球上呢只有可能被 realized， 只有可能被实现。好，在哪里被实现呢？ Only inside， 你只有在 a nuclear reactor 之内才有可能形成这么大的能量。而且呢，就算做到了，也只不过是一个 on a microscopic scale microscopic 就是很小的，量很小的因为 microscope 是显微镜嘛M-I-C-R-O-S-C-O-P-E。好，它是很小量的 scale 就是规模，所以你只能在核磁反应炉做出来，而且呢，它的这个规模是小规模的。
Worse still, the tiny amounts of gold that you could produce in this way would be radioactive and poisonous to the touch. It would kill everybody.
Worse still, 更糟糕的是，这些小小的量的这个黄金 produced， 你做出来这些小小量的黄金呢，它 would be， 就算你做出来了，也会怎么样？这 would be 是假设语气，就算你做出来，它也会是 radioactive， 具有放射性，而且呢 poisonous to the touch， 摸会有毒，所以你摸了会中毒。
So until another discovery is made, you'll just have to enjoy the gold that already exists in the world.
所以呢，在另外一个重大发现形成之前，就是别人发现另外一个这个可以做出金子的方法之前，你可能只能 enjoy 现在已经存在这个世界上的这些金子。
Okay, we have 3 questions for you. Number 1 of which is, according to the passage, which of the following statements is true?
根据本文下列何项的叙述是正确的？
The answer is B. A particular method can produce gold from mercury or platinum.
答案是 B， 有一种特别的方法能够将汞或者是铂制成黄金。
Number 2, what is the purpose of the second paragraph?
第二段的目的是什么？
The answer is A, to give an introduction to the composition of an atom.
答案是 A， 介绍原子的组成。
And number 3, why does the author suggest that we wouldn't want to try any of the methods to create gold?
作者为什么说我们不会想尝试制造黄金的方法呢？
The answer is D. It involves a destructive procedure that makes the final product poisonous.
答案是 D， 因为这些方法涉及一种会让成品有毒的毁灭性的程序。
So, that's all we have for you about gold. So, it turns out that still the only way to get gold these days is to earn the money to buy it. So, I guess that's what we'll have to do. Anyways, we'll see you again next time for more Ivy English. Until then, bye-bye.